If you want to know the absolute strongest build in Ghost of Yotei, you are in the right place. After extensively testing and creating the best builds for more than 130 hours, I'll be giving my top 10 strongest builds in the game along with the best setups and strategies. Following this guide will save you tons of time and guesswork, especially if there are a handful of armors in the game and a lot of charms to choose from. Like for example, the Matchlock Samurai build that takes advantage of the most optimized setup for the Tanegashima to blast off and one-shot any type of regular enemies while also dealing huge tons of damage to bosses. This build somehow fixes the Tanegashima slow reload issue by increasing the gun's reload speed by a ton, or reloads it while it is stowed or not being used. The Matchlock Samurai takes advantage of bows or your main weapon types and the Tanjutsu to compensate for the reload time of the Tanegashima. So if you want a dynamic gameplay that involves a lot of weapon switching and blocking bullets like a Jedi, you will want to check out this build. You are still required to use your main weapon types in close melee fights while using this build. And as mentioned, this setup was built around the Tanegashima rifle while also taking advantage of the bow Hankyu. Main quickfire weapons would be the Tanjutsu, which matches the build's theme, and the smoke bomb. Genji's armor and the overall charm setup for the Matchlock Samurai further optimizes the Tanegashima playstyle while also giving you the chance to get more bullet refunds to power up guns longer in combat. I will not be super detailed about why I picked these weapons and the charms to make this top 10 list video concise. If you want a detailed explanation of all of the items that I suggested in this video, all of the respective builds involved on this list were linked in the description where I deep dive into the build's inner workings. And not only that, I've also linked all of the drop locations for your convenience just in case you don't have a specific item and want to get it later on. The easiest way to play this build is of course finding a higher ground and sniping all of the enemies in the vicinity. The Tanegashima has a ridiculous range but it is loud as hell, so you'll be getting attention in no time. When this happens, you can simply block the incoming projectiles while continuing to shoot bullets at enemies. In close to mid-range, you can simply use the Tanegashima as an opener and switch to your bow to kill enemies, and then switch back to the Tanegashima when it's ready. This strategy also applies to your melee weapons, or you can simply toss the Tanjutsu into the mix to pistol parry targets. When dealing with multiple enemies, another good strategy is using the smoke bomb so you can get into a good firing range and concentrate, and then use the Tanegashima. When fighting in duels, remember that bosses can deflect your bullets, which is a bummer, I know, but you can simply stagger the boss by using the explosive bullet of the Tanegashima by aiming and shooting the ground where the boss is located to stagger it, then concentrate so you can use normal bullets to damage the boss. Coming in hot in the top 9 spot is the Lightning Samurai. The Lightning Samurai is a spirit generation build designed to spam the spirit attack Heavenly Slash of the katana to summon lightning strikes. The lightning strikes is simply broken in terms of damage since it can one-shot all types of targets including bosses. But the caveat is, it has a 30-second cooldown and has a random chance which enemy will be hit. This build has one of the fastest spirit build-up strategies and passives in the game, giving you a major increase in all spirit gains, allowing the player to spam even more spirit attacks across all weapon types. And as mentioned, the katana is going to be our main weapon in this build and mostly be used as an opener to summon the lightning strikes, but you are still going to use other weapon types and most of the time spam their spirit attacks. The Yumi is our main range weapon for this build as it can give you a lot of spirit when using the disarm arrows on enemies. The smoke bomb and the Tanjutsu were handpicked as the best sub-weapon for this build. Taro's armor and the overall charm setup were selected to give you the fastest spirit generation across the board, while giving you the longest HP and possible protection from fire and cold damage. Essentially, all of your spirit gain sources are on steroids, so you do have a lot of methods to gain the fastest spirit charges possible. What I usually do is target a katana user and use the Heavenly Slash spirit technique until I summon my first lightning strikes. Then from there, you will be juggling between weapon types and performing their spirit techniques to take out targets. Once you notice that you are about to run out of spirit, use the smoke bomb to chain assassinate targets or pistol parry with the Tanjutsu, as both strategies gives you a great amount of spirit. These strategies will give you a surge of spirit, and not to mention, you can spam this trick to gain spirit charges fast. Another method is disarming targets with a Yumi to gain a lot of spirit. Make sure you are using the disarm arrows while doing this. You can also use stance-offs easily to fill your entire entire spirit gauge to get you up and running. And watch how insane the spirit generation is. When up against bosses, you can target the mobs first and pray that the lightning strikes hits the enemy camp leader, and that is enough to one-shot the boss. The Ultimate Shinobi is easily the best stealth build in the game, an easy top 1 build for players who prefer stealth over anything. This build has all the bells and whistles of a deadly Shinobi, like silent and multiple arrow strikes that kill enemies before they even know it, up to extended chain assassination that can easily take out 5 targets in a flash, a perfect stealth killing machine that can also terrify targets when confronted in close quarter combat by performing more chain assassinations and ghost dancing. You are welcome to use any weapon type you want, since the majority of your kills will be chain assassination and stealth kills anyways. But the longbow Yumi is suggested when sniping multiple targets silently. The suggested weapons are smoke bomb, blind bomb, Metsubushi, and of course the MVP kunai. The Crimson Kimono allows you to extend chain assassinations up to 5 targets with the use of kunai and gives you the best stealth passives you can have in the game. The build's main focus is obviously stealth, and you can easily clear an enemy camp by spamming regular assassination stunts or by spamming lethal talons to take one enemy at a time. And because your longbow arrows do not make any sound at all, you can snipe multiple enemies at once and call it a day. But if you found yourself getting caught and surrounded by targets, just use the smoke bomb to conceal yourself or use the blind bomb and disengage. After using the smoke bomb, you do have 2 options here. Either you disengage and hide or chain assassinate 5 targets. And yes, as long as you do have smoke bombs, you can abuse this trick to pull off multiple chain assassinations. You can easily accumulate kill streaks as well when using this build, so perform ghost dance when it's available. What I usually do is unleash the ghost dance after a chain assassination to wipe out multiple targets like the Ultimate Ninja. While if you are up against enemy camp leaders, you can simply slaughter them and die instantly, or deal critical talent strikes after using a smoke bomb, or use the Metsubushi to poison and make them vulnerable and fire 3 explosive arrows at their heads. If you're getting value so far, subscribe to the channel. Liking the video and engaging in the comments helps me more than you can imagine. Taking the top 7 spotlight is the Hawkeye Samurai. If you want the best range or bow build in the game, the Hawkeye Samurai build is for you. The Hawkeye Samurai can clear a group of enemies with hard-hitting shots, master the concentration skill to wipe out multiple targets with raining arrows, or pull off strong auto headshots to clear enemies fast, or even auto-shoot bosses to their deaths without a hassle. The medium and longbow Hankyu and the Yumi are hands down the best weapons for this build to pull off hard-hitting arrow shots that can one-shot targets in quick succession. For you to pull off these deadly strategies, the smoke bomb and the Metsubushi are highly suggested. The dragonfly armor and the best range charms in the game makes this setup godly, allowing the player to clear enemy groups in the fastest time possible in the entire game. The easiest way to kill enemies is to use the Hankyu and shoot fully buff arrows at targets without the need to aim. If you want to minimize combat engagement, you can simply find a higher ground and target 3 enemies at a time, and slowly chip away at enemies until you clear an enemy camp. When dealing with multiple targets, use the smoke bomb to have the space and set up your firing range, and then use the Yumi to score headshots and terrify the nearby enemies. Then switch to your Hankyu and concentrate and rain down fully buff arrows on your targets and clear enemies fast. When dealing with enemy camp leaders, on the other hand, you can terrify the boss by taking out his guards with headshots. When the boss is terrified, pull off the Hankyu and rain down arrows and call it a day. Or if you want the easy route, use the Yumi and any of its arrows and target the boss's head from a distance. Bosses in duels can deflect your arrows, so when that happens, use the Metsubushi to put them off guard and then access concentrate. Use the Hankyu to pull off multiple shots to stun lock the boss and deal tons of damage. Now someone will ask me, "Hey Samurai, this build looks broken as hell, why is it just placed on top 7? Well, bosses in this game can deflect arrows, especially in real duels. If you simply ran out of arrows and quickfire ammo, you will resort to your main weapons, which is not ideal for this specific build. This list considers the effectiveness of all of the builds in both regular encounters and duels, not just the fastest clear times of enemy groups. Coming in hot in the top 6 spot is the Undying Samurai. The Undying Samurai build will allow you to regenerate HP from various sources, making you last longer in combat even after taking several hits. Regenerate your health by parrying, staggering, and killing enemies. This build is perfect for players who are still adjusting to the game's combat, giving them access to a lot of healing and some good stagger and perfect parry passives. Since this is a general build, all of your main weapon types are suggested and you can use any ranged weapon you like. The top picks for sub-weapon are the blind bombs, Oni's blade, Tanjutsu, and especially the smoke bomb. As the name implies, the armor of the Undying is the one powering this setup along with the charms geared towards healing, making a perfect general setup that covers a lot of good advantages like greater healing, better parries, and more healing sources. When playing this build, staggering with the right weapon type and killing enemies is your main priority. You'll be gaining health by staggering and killing targets, so that's the fastest way to make up for any health loss. Make sure to abuse your focus attacks frequently to take advantage of the possible stagger damage bonus from the armor. This build is designed to take out groups of enemies because it can sustain itself. But if you are getting overwhelmed, use the smoke bomb to thin the herd with chain assassination and also heal in the process. Abusing the blind bomb is also another great way to easily break multiple enemy stances since the stagger damage that the blind bomb deals is immensely high. If you're up against bosses, staggering them quickly with the Oni's Flame and Spirit techniques is the best strategy to go for. Or when dealing with regular camp leaders, use the smoke bomb technique to deal tons of damage with assassination techniques. The list goes spicier from here, and if you think you've seen enough, you are mistaken, my friend. It is time for the best of the best builds in the game, and I'm not gonna lie, the true mercenary build surprised me in any way when I optimized this setup. I gave it the title of the best spirit build in the game, and yes, it is better compared to the lightning samurai build when it comes to spirit generation. The true mercenary is also another spirit generation build, but on a completely different level, allowing the user to fill in their spirit charges manually by simply drinking sake, and the spirit gained from the sake is simply out of this world. This build can also terrify enemies and make them suffer even more damage by disarming or assassinating targets. You will be one-shotting enemies with hard-hitting, throwable weapons and gain a lot of spirit in the process when using this build. All of your main weapon types are suggested when using the true mercenary, but the sub-weapon that makes this build work is the smoke bomb, while the out-of-this-world spirit generation was only possible because of the mercenary attire, giving the player the best spirit passives while also increasing the damage of throwable weapons. When combined with the best spirit generating charms, you will rarely run out of spirit in regular combat. When playing this build, always remember that your main opener will always be the Dance of Wrath. This allows you to disarm 3 targets simultaneously while also giving you the chance to terrify nearby targets. Pick the weapons that you just disarmed and throw them against your targets to gain spirit charges back. Use the right weapon type and spam its spirit technique to take out enemies. Once you run out of spirit, use your sake to easily gain a lot of spirit charges, which is totally insane. While if you run out of sake, simply use your smoke bomb to chain assassinate enemies and loot their dead bodies to gain your sake back. If you are into aggressive gameplay that will give you the edge across all scenarios, like one-on-one battles, group battles, and even duels, the Stagger Samurai is the perfect weapon to perform in all of those avenues. This build will allow you to break enemy stances in just few heavy attacks, and with the right setup, this build has a chance to stagger any type of target in a single hit, making enemies frequently opens for incoming damage, ending the fights in quick succession. When dealing with a large group of enemies, staggering targets will give you the chance to trigger a stagger shockwave that inflicts stagger damage to nearby enemies, allowing you to perform this stagger snowball effect that breaks enemy stances one after another. You are required to use all of your weapon types to deal the highest stagger damage possible, while the blind bomb, the Oni's blade, the smoke bomb, and especially the kunai will be our best choice when it comes to quickfire weapons. The Spider Lily armor will grant you already perfect stagger passives, which can further improve by slotting in the best crowd control and stagger damage related charms in the game. Playing this build is pretty straightforward as you will be spamming heavy attacks and stagger enemies in a few swings, hoping the stagger shockwave procs and going in for the kill. This build is designed to destroy a group of enemies, and you want to keep on pressuring the targets around you by using your kunai, and you will be staggering targets here and there while also giving you the chance to proc waves of stagger shocks. Make sure to abuse your spirit attacks frequently as they deal the highest stagger damage possible. You can also use your blind bombs and use the Odachi to take out all of the blinded enemies, since the Odachi has a massive stagger damage bonus on all targets. If you're up against bosses, staggering them quickly with the Oni's Flame and Spirit techniques is the best strategy to go for. Bosses with minions often hurt the boss instead of helping them, since the stagger shockwaves can affect enemy camp leaders as well. If you find the previous build crazy, the Blazing Shinobi is even more out of this world, securing the top 3 spot on this list. This build is simply a powerhouse and one of the absolute strongest setups in the game that is designed to deal the highest damage possible in every single hit. A build that can clear group of enemies with hard-hitting Fire Kusarigama AoE attacks, masters the Oni's Flame to one-shot enemies in one-on-one fights, and can easily take out and stun-lock targets with multiple Fire Kunai. The Blazing Shinobi has all of the bells and whistles of a full combat build, so if you are looking for the best fire build in the game, you don't want to miss out on this one. You can pretty much use any weapon type you want in this setup, but the Odachi and the Kusarigama will have the higher edge among the other weapons. These two weapons are simply a powerhouse in this particular setup, and you will see why later on. This setup would not be possible without the Oni's Flame sub-weapon to power up your light and heavy attacks, while the Smoke Bomb is suggested for you to have a chance to inflict terror on enemies and replenish your quickfire weapons ammo. The Ninetail armor is a hell of a beast armor, making your quickfire weapons even stronger and making them last longer in combat by giving you the chance to get more ammo. Using the right charms geared towards Oni's Flame to make it even hit harder will make you indestructible. You do have a lot of options when playing this build, and of course, the best strategy is to inflict as much fire damage to your enemies. Your ultimate killer move is casting the Dance of Wrath first, so you do have a chance to terrify your targets to gain a damage bonus. And when that happens, switch to Kusarigama and buff it with Oni's Flame, and start dishing out a busted AoE focus attacks to wipe out the majority of the targets surrounding you. This move is so powerful that it can bypass any weapon types and clear multiple enemies in seconds. The second strategy is pulling the Dance of Wrath skill and straight spamming your Fire Kunai to wipe multiple targets in a flash. Or what you can do instead is, after the Dance of Wrath, you can crowd control your enemies with Fire Kunai and let them burn, while you are taking enemies with your Odachi and the Kusarigama one at a time. When you notice that the fire damage over time expires, throw another set of Fire Kunai to lock enemies under a fire state. If you run out of ammo, simply cast a Smoke Bomb and do a chain assassination, and this will give you the chance to gain Kunai and the Oni's Flame ammo to get you back in action. Securing the top 2 spot and one of the absolute best builds in the game is the Ultimate Onryo. If you want the best straightforward build that destroys targets with super hard-hitting attacks while also having the ability to crowd control any number of targets, this Onryo build is the best setup across the board. This build will allow you to terror lock enemies with consistent headshots, performing spirit techniques, disarming targets, and even consistent ghost dancing that can wipe out enemy groups in seconds. And I am telling you, even the lethal difficulty is no match against this build. You can use any weapon you like since enemies can block your attacks anyway as they are terrified. But of course, in boss fights, you are still required to use the right weapon type to deal the highest stagger damage possible. The Longbow Yumi plays a heavy role in this setup since headshots are your easiest way to inflict terror on targets. Make sure you do have Smoke Bomb and the Oni's Flame slotted in and you are good to go. The Ultimate Onryo build would not be possible without the Onryo armor, giving you the best terror-inducing passives in the game. Pair it with the best terror-based charms and you will simply make enemies fear your every move. Your goal is to inflict terror on your enemies, and the first and the best way is the Yumi strategy, where you can just concentrate to pull off your initial headshots and then continuously score more headshots since all of your targets are already terrified. You can terror lock your targets by pulling off a Dance of Wrath as an opener and disarm 3 enemies. Then take out enemies with your super hard-hitting light attacks. And when enemies starts to move again, terrify them by either pulling another Yumi headshots or using the Smoke Bomb. The Smoke Bomb will allow you to easily perform chain assassinations and inflict terror again. Then start thinning the herd with more light attacks. Ghost Dance can easily be performed when using this setup and can serve as another way of terrifying enemies. When you are up against enemy camp leaders, keep in mind that they can be terrified as well, and when they do, they are open for attacks for a significant period of time, allowing you to deal massive damage with the Oni's Flame active. Taking out multiple terrified targets in seconds or wiping enemies with fast and hard-hitting kunai are no doubt the best strategies in the game, but I firmly believe that the strongest build in the game is still hands down the Bounty Samurai. This build may be slower when it comes to kill per second, but its ability to bypass any kind of weapon type when facing both regular enemies and even the strongest bosses in the game is simply exceptional. This build can even make the strongest boss in the game looks like child's play if you know how to use it. And right off the bat, this build requires a little bit of skill for it to shine. So if you are into technical gameplay, then this is the best build for you. The Bounty Samurai build will make your parries godly and easier and allows you to counter enemies with 3 hard-hitting strikes. If you master the art of perfect parries and dodges, no enemy can simply touch you. You can use whatever weapon you like in this build since perfect parries can bypass any weapon type, but slotting in the Oni's Flame to improve your counter damage as much as possible is best in slot, while including the kunai for versatility. The Bounty Master armor is simply a broken armor set in this game which makes perfect parry and dodge easier while increasing your counter attack strikes to 3. Combine it with the best parry and the Oni's Flame charm in the game, you are good to go. Playing this build is pretty straightforward. This build performs greatly in single fights or when fighting with group of enemies, especially if you have already mastered the perfect parry timings. The key here is to master the art of parrying while playing the waiting game to counter your enemies with 3 hard-hitting strikes. Your counters can easily take out enemies in one single parry, while on the other hand, bosses will be suffering great damage from the counters. All of the bosses in this game are so aggressive that you can play the waiting game and parry them to death. This strategy works and can make the hardest fights in the game child's play as mentioned. But of course, the Bounty Samurai requires skills and finesse to reach its maximum potential. And if you prefer straightforward gameplay, the Blazing Shinobi and the Ultimate Onryo are simply the strongest builds in the game. But what if you just started the game and want to have the perfect start? This definitive progression guide is enough to get you up to speed, so click on this video and I will catch you on the next one.